Hello, welcome to Article Club. This is the show where we read an article and we talk about it.
We talk about it.
Allison, what are we reading today?
We are reading The End of Seriousness.
Oh.
Ha ha ha.
R.I.P.
And this is a piece by Michele Jackson in The New Yorker. Mm-hmm. And it's something that is talking about how over time, really starting in the 60s, I mean, we'll go into the history that she walks through, but especially in the last couple of years, there's been sort of this shift from, finding comedy and everything to the memification of everything to sort of a backlash against being serious. Like, can you be serious about anything? Or will people say like, oh, you're taking this too seriously? Or can't you find some levity? Or can't you find some humor? And there are lots of lines that she quotes in this piece that I think about saying, that I say all the time.
Oh, absolutely. As I was reading this, I think I came face to face with the fact that I cover up everything with humor.
I know.
Deflect. Maybe less the memification of everything. I'm not a meme gal, but
yeah, is covering everything with humor just the millennial version of the memification that Gen Z is doing?
And did we not always do that? That's another big question. We could talk about that.
Yeah, were we ever allowed to be serious? At least as long as we've been alive.
Right. Well, her point is, as the internet, as memification has become a thing, everything is funny. We cover up everything with an LOL. I feel like I've always done that my whole life. No?
I know. Do you remember though when for our generation LOL started being used ironically? Because
yes.
For a while it was like LOL, LMAO.
That's how you actually show you're laughing on the internet.
And now it's just like lol.
Which is funny.
She talks about, there's one line that she says sort of became prolific, which is lol, that's crazy. Which is just sort of like, it's avoiding going deeper and getting more serious on these topics and just sort of brushing over something that someone tells you about that holds a lot of like maybe intensity or weight, and you're just like,
right.
Well, that's crazy.
Right. It's a throwaway. And the crazier things get, the more it's easy to just do the brush off.
The more it gets papered over.
Yep.
Yeah. She talks about how like anyone's first response to things is laughter, it seems. I thought this line was so good. Jokes are safer for stalling opinion and thereby contention by foregoing one. So it's sort of like if you just laugh it off or if you joke about it, it allows you to actually avoid having to have an opinion or draw a firm line on something.
Right. Well, it ends up always being the end, even if you do have a strong opinion with somebody. If you're debating something, you're going back and forth. How do you even then bring it back together? There's rarely a let's shake hands and look at each other in the eyes seriously,
and just
right?
agree to disagree.
Right. It's a, you know what? Well, la la la. It's all going to burn to hell or whatever it is.
Exactly.
Right?
Oh,
it's
yeah.
also a great.
It just like the way to end things.
This has also been making me think about humor as survival.
Totally.
And she doesn't really talk about the history of how she gets into certain communities using humor to cope with trauma. But I personally feel like if you can't laugh about it, ruminating has always been a thing as a sort of Irish Catholic person. That's like you can't like go crawl into a hole and feel sorry for yourself.
Right. It's like a pick yourself up by the bootstraps.
Yeah. Throw some humor on it and move forward one foot in front of the other. But,
Well, yeah. And she talks about we're in an irony epidemic, which I thought was interesting, which was like comedy used to be allowed to be used, but there was still some sincerity in what people said. And now everything is a joke all the time.
Right. Wait, speaking of irony, this isn't exactly irony, but we have to acknowledge something.
But in the Alanis Morissette song, this would be ironic.
Yeah. Isn't it ironic? We, every single time we record this podcast, we show up without coordinating outfits. And lo and behold, we are matching yet again. Stripes on stripes. I have a slight olive-y stripe for you, just listening through your ears, not gracing us with your YouTube presence. What would you call yours? A burgundy brown?
Yeah, like a sort of... I don't know. Yeah, burgundy brown.
I swear, dear reader, we are not coordinating these outfits in yet.
Happens.
But now we can never ever talk about it.
But are stripes the jokes of clothing?
Maybe.
They're just ubiquitous?
Maybe we were both feeling buoyant, jailbird, clown-like.
I know when she was talking about
the irony.
When she was talking about the irony epidemic, but also just like comedy and tragedy, I was thinking about my like middle school drama classes where you're like learning about the Greek amphitheater and tragedies and comedies and how these things have always been sort of not at odds, but like two sides of the same coin. But I thought the history that she takes us through of the comedification of America was not something I thought about. She was talking about how there were comedians like Lenny Bruce and John Lemon in the 60s who basically brought comedy to like the cultural zeitgeist or like the pop culture world. And that was like from the, you know, the 60s into the 2000s was sort of the norm. Like pre that, it was like, you know, people that grew up in the Great Depression, like there just wasn't, I think, a lot of like laughter and, to your quote, levity. And then she talks about 9/11 actually as a turning point, which, I mean, how old were you when 9/11 happened?
We were in 8th grade.
7th, right?
7th grade? 7th grade, 8th grade?
Yeah, I was in Dr. Kuno's.
You're right. Mrs. Hayes English class, so
class.
that must have been in 7th grade. It's so interesting. Our millennial generation, we were in school.
Yeah.
So our teachers went out of the room and were told, or what
Yeah, we
have
brought like
you.
a TV in.
How glad are you that Instagram didn't exist
Oh my gosh.
when you were in 7th grade during 9/11?
Oh,
I
mean,
just
so glad.
feel like that would have I didn't know, you know, there were all of these like Teletubbies falling from the World Tower.
Oh, I
She
missed
talks
all of this.
about-
Yeah.
So
She talks about how like when 9/11 happened, obviously that was a huge tragedy in America. And there was actually like a brief respite from any comedic reaction.
Right.
So like
Onion
the Onion
went
went
dark,
dark,
yeah.
like SNL
You know when the Onion
happened,
goes
late
dark.
night comedy shows like stopped producing for a couple of days, and how after that, like sort of when they came back, the South Park example, that episode example that she gives was like super salient to me, where basically they were trying to use comedy, I think, to cope with this tragedy, but in a way that was like over the top. And like in the South Park episode that she talks about happens, they have Rudy Giuliani coming on to the South Park episode and saying, "I give you permission to laugh, and if you don't, I'll have you arrested." And sort of this like almost slapsticky, like not actually processing the tragedy through comedy. It was sort of like sitting above that, like not. It wasn't actually serving a purpose. It was just sort of stupid to paper over it, not to actually deal with the tragedy.
Do we feel like her nutshell argument was pre 9/11? And I remember this as a kid. I remember being told nothing will ever be the same. You will remember pre 9/11 and post 9/11 as a kid, which as a kid, you're sort of like, this is the only thing in my life that has been that way. Now we have the pandemic. There's been all
Sure.
these other things in our lives. Do you think she's sort of arguing, you know, not 80s, 90s, rom-com, it's sort of this, you know, at the expense of minorities and all of this like stuff that would never fly today. It was just the sort of like rosy humor world. And then 9/11 makes us feel like we can't laugh about anything ever again. And then she sort of says this snark replaces it. It's like this skepticism, this snark, this almost sort of like nastiness hitting the internet, which then kind of explodes this memification.
Yeah, I thought the line that she used that really speaks this was, "The thought was that to meet something with a laugh was the same thing as defanging it, a fearful humor inflated with American self-importance." Because there's also a little bit of like God, like Uncle Sammy, God bless America, but with like a little bit of, again, irony or tongue-in-cheekness as you're saying that, because clearly like the fact that 9/11 happened meant that couldn't be the case, or I don't know exactly what she's saying there too. I think what you were describing is fair for what her argument is. I also think that there's a little bit of a conflation of the fact that 9/11 was also kind of the beginning of internet culture in general. So I think those are coincidental, but that like it wasn't just 9/11 that like changed the face of comedy. It was also that like YouTube started to really take off. Like think about all of those stupid videos that we watched on YouTube that because
Old Greg.
Oh yeah,
drink
Old
Baileys from a shoe,
Greg.
and we all knew them. There were, for some reason,
Charlie bit my finger.
Charlie bit my
Daniel and the
finger.
dentist.
Yep. Yeah.
That one about
Charlie bit May.
what was the one with the end of the world? Like Alaska can come too.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Getting like Rick rolled, like
Yeah.
all these dumb things.
Yeah, and they're all
It
very
was
like
so much-
juvenile and kind of unfeeling.
And so much more monoculture
Yeah.
internet now.
which is
it's
sort of
so-
what America is, a bit of a like.
Yes, and it's so
Yeah.
niche. Like there's so many different niche American cultures. Except, I guess, if you were then bucketed by the algorithm into a certain cohort of people, like me, mom memes, you know, or whatever, into cooking memes.
Yeah,
or
like
whatever.
the internet's become more sophisticated, so you're
Yeah.
like getting even more specific
Yeah.
instead of this monoculture.
Totally, whether you like it or not. I chuckled a little bit to myself thinking about sociologists dissecting memes. At one point, she talks about sociologists, you know, writing of the cut and paste internet jokes that are impacting the zeitgeist in our conversations, and it just reminds me, like we're living in history. Like people are studying the stupid things that people are putting out in the world.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, because one example that she talks about, you know, there was that like truly tragic photo of people jumping from 9/11. And then she talks about how people memeified it by putting Teletubbies doing it. And you're just like, wow, people were really just like testing the fucking waters to see what was going to work. And the fact that the internet allowed you to do that anonymously. Like, it sort of allows people to make comedy of something in a way that you wouldn't necessarily say in person, which I think is like sort of the age-old like question of our time is like, would these things be happening if you had to say this face to face? Like, is the fact that people are more online contributing to like this lack of seriousness, to contributing to this because it's like conversations that you just wouldn't.
Right.
You would have to.
And you wouldn't be so algorithmically placed in the viewership that you're in without the tech behind it too.
Totally.
You know, you're anonymous and you're only seeing certain things that, you know, are based on what the algorithm decides you should see.
Totally.
It's just...
Well, and I think she talks a little bit about how it's gone so far. You know, so it first started with like probably a handful of like internet trolls or like people just fucking around and finding out on the internet. And now like this memification, this comedification has become like ubiquitous. So like you have government agencies that are like tweeting sort of sassy comebacks. You have like brands getting onto, you know, I think about like, I remember when we were at Uber and we were thinking about like, what does our social media presence look like? Everyone would always talk about the Wendy's Twitter account because it would just troll people. And like, isn't this so interesting as a brand? Like it's such a pointy point of view.
In my first job out of college at an ad agency, it was sort of like the new age of media. All these brands were getting their Facebook presences and they were trying to figure out who are we going to be on Twitter, what have you. What, like Oreo, we're all about celebrating all the moments. So, you know, I was literally tasked with, you know, with these suite of brands. How do we be, quote unquote, always on with those brands? How do we listen to what's happening in the world and then respond to them?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Pretty wild.
Oh, man. Yeah.
Okay, I have many questions for you about this. Well, first thing, on that sort of like memification of the world, one thing stuck with me. She talks about the precious currency of attention. It feels like at that time when the internet then became, everybody had an account. Everybody's following these likes. Even she talks about, I'm going to put this meme forward, and then she decides not to do it, but like she could have gotten a few likes from it that feels really good. It's like we all have this counter that's now out in the world, and the funnier we are, the cooler we are, or like the sassier we are, we get oomph from that. We get juice from that. It's so fascinating. The precious currency of attention. I was going to ask you, well, first of all, humor with serious subjects. I know not in an offensive way. Like I think there's a line, but I often, humor for me is avoidance. It's a way of sort of saying, well, I have no control over that thing. At least I can make light of something else and sort of like move forward with my life. How do you see yourself using humor?
I think my default has been very similar to that, which is that if something is uncomfortable, I have two solutions. One is to use humor to like sort of unstick that from the discomfort, or two, I'll just talk really quickly to move through that subject.
Okay.
So, or maybe both. But I think humor, I think in my best case scenario, humor is a way to actually connect people and disarm. Exactly. But I think I've found, as I've tried to be more strategic or just less defaulty to that actually like there's a lot of beauty to like very authentic and real conversations. I even see this like in relationship where like my default would be like, oh, that's a silly thing that you do, but really it's something that annoys me. And then when my partner's like, why wouldn't you just say that annoys you? And I'm like, oh yeah, like that gets to it much faster. It doesn't risk you not missing that I was trying to like use humor to do this. Like I think in some ways at its worst, humor is very passive aggressive and very kind of, again, papering over things, which is I feel like where the internet has taken it. I mean, I even think at the end she talks about the tragic murdering of the United Healthcare CEO and how it then became memified and sort of like, have we taken this? Has it gone too far? And I will say, I was looking at some of those things as someone who'd worked in healthcare and was like, the reimbursement system is fucked up, and was like, wow, these are clever, like actual spins on this perspective, but also like this man was just killed. And so, like, how do you just so casually joke about
that
it?
I circled and went, ee. She said, the laughs were productive.
Yes.
So there's a POV here. A little bit.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know? And so, yeah, at the end of the day, somebody got murdered. And I understand it's all complicated and, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, and then our health insurance profits is like the biggest, there's probably something wrong when our healthcare industry, when this company is like the fourth largest market cap in the US. But yeah, I don't think we can then make light of this guy's
Such a
murder.
good question. What can we do? The way you're even phrasing that. Can we do this? Can we not do this? And there's no, there's some people who are going to, there's
rules.
people who aren't going to. People are going to have an opinion on it.
And is like laughing being productive just another vestige of capitalistic society? Is that like it can only be productive? Is it like it can only be good if it's productive? Why can't it just be enjoyable or pleasurable? Like productivity is a really interesting word choice.
It's a really interesting word.
There was something I thought a lot of this piece was actually like criticizing some of the like alt-right kind of memification of things that are serious. Like when you think about decorum and everything that happened. Yeah, exactly. When you think about like the stock market or politics and how all of that's now been like memified. But there is still something in here too that's a little bit like, let's go back to the old days of America, and America needs to be productive, and that I just didn't. I found to be also a little. Ugh.
Yeah, I also I'm surprised there's a handful of things that immediately came to mind starting to read the article that I'm surprised she didn't mention. One being SNL.
Why about that? Because it's been around for 50 years?
It's been around for a long time, and I feel like it's always been this sort of cultural pulse collision between comedy and politics and bad things happening in the world. And it's in such sort of like a still monoculture way. It's like when America shows up to laugh about the stuff that's going on in the world.
Yeah.
I wonder why she didn't broach that.
Yeah. I thought to the productivity piece, I found like the question of like, when does humor stop being cathartic and start being like dismissive? Like, and is that really just a personal question, or is that something that we can answer like as a population?
I have a hypothesis.
Please.
I think at scale, humor can continue unbridled. Like in the internet where there's so much going on,
right?
You can make fun of whatever. When you are intimately connected with one person and they were impacted by something, or they're telling you their story, that is where I cannot fathom a person of the right mind being able to like laugh in their face about that thing
in a way that you would like haha emoji,
in a way that you haha in general to the world. So I do think there's this like.
Scale.
There's been this huge shift away from one-to-one. I pick up the phone to call you. Okay, we have a dinner party. That's pretty much it. Or, I stand up in a PTO meeting. But even that we've talked about. It's so much more harder to hate somebody who has an opposing view if they're in the room and they both have a kid at the school and you're
you have to see them again. Yeah.
So I think it probably has something to do with that. There is no line in the internet. There's just, it's just scale. It's just shouting. But one-on-one. Speaking of, do you remember the last time you were serious with someone who isn't your partner? Had a serious conversation or interaction?
Like, I guess, what does serious mean?
It's a good question. Not light, not humor, serious.
Yeah, like tense. There are things I feel like I really have to like gear myself up for because they're so not.
Do you think maybe this is which is also a factor of our society these days? Like we're so online,
we're so out of practice.
We can just be so sort of like light touch. Yeah, we're so out of practice. Yeah, serious situations are coming up every single day when you're just living your life.
Yeah, probably with my family, and like, I mean, I probably have only had a handful of like really serious conversations outside of my partner in the last year. And why is that like why do we only give that to the partner?
My partner gets all of it. I was thinking about that. I was like, when have I been serious with anyone except my partner, who I'm smile that you deflect things with humor that you actually don't like about the person. I'm like, I can't remember the last time I beat around the bush with humor. How kind of you. I'm like, I fucking hate that. No. We are kind to each other, but I would not ironically say something funny to get I'm just like
Very matter of fact.
Yeah, very matter.
I was having a similar thought of not like when was the last time you were serious, but like when was the last time you were like uncomfortable for a protracted period of time? Like I think again, humor, and she talks about this so much.
I do think those are different though. I want to hear, but I think serious and I'm uncomfortable.
Totally, I think they are different. But discomfort, like you were willing to, I think for me, I often use humor to exit discomfort.
Yes. Agreed.
And so
stage left.
So when was the last time that you I can't think of a time when I was uncomfortable that I didn't try to disarm it with humor.
Right. Oh, yeah. I can't either. What do you do?
I don't know.
Well, okay. So one thing that just popped into my brain, someone was like rage driving, like giving me the finger, like I like merged, literally did nothing wrong. I do not understand road rage. These people who are I truly, like, do you have like anger and sadness inside of you so deep that a complete stranger who like made a mistake / I didn't make a mistake.
Right, but they think you did. Let's be real.
But like, does that just feel so good to them? I think
no, I don't think it does.
This is something I don't relate to. How can that feel good? They must feel rattled. Everyone's
I don't think
rattled.
It does feel good. I just watched
upsetting.
this movie. Oh, I just watched this movie on Apple called Hard Truths, and it's really not. It's not about anything. It's basically these two sisters.
It's not about anything.
Yeah, it's really not about anything, but it's these two sisters, and one of the sisters is basically just so angry all the time. And honestly, you should watch it because actually, I would say that was the last time I was just uncomfortable for the whole movie, and I was like, "Wow, this is so unpleasant." I had to watch it in 2 sittings, even though it's like an hour and a half movie. And one of the sisters is just so angry. She like literally wakes up screaming. She's so mean. They have her go to like a dental hygienist, and she is, they're like touching her gum, and she's like being such a bitch to the dental hygienist. She's mean to doctors. She's mean to like people in the street. She's mean to the cashier at the grocery store. And you're just watching her, and you're thinking like, how, like, I was just have so much like, oh, just make it stop because I'm really so uncomfortable because
hard
clearly
for me to relate to the anger
yeah,
like
I
that.
can't imagine having the anger like that. But I don't think it feels good to them. I think it's just like I think it's an outlet. Yeah, they can't help it.
Yes, they're just giving me the middle finger, like with 2 kids in my car.
And they think that you are doing it with intention and malice.
But I feel bad for that person feeling that way.
For sure.
Like you walk around thinking like people like have, and don't get me wrong, I'm no saint. Somebody does an asshole move, like I'm not pleased with them in the car, but
for sure. I think that's what a lot of the like.
Very quick.
I think about when you think about like incels or like the men are all not all right, and they're all posting these things about how women are so like fucked up, and it's because they have their own discomfort that they're sitting within.
Sure. I guess the way I got to road rage was like being in an uncomfortable situation. I couldn't even resolve it it just ended. So a lot of the uncomfortable situations are just like
you can be like, it's
something
okay,
on the road or like you'll never see them again or what have you. Something with a friend and somebody you care about in an uncomfortable situation you address, and I can understand that being serious.
Oh yeah, but I don't even like if someone is mad at me, sometimes people are like, I want to, I'll talk to you about it in a couple of days. Oh no. That is like torture. Yeah. Oh, same. I'm like, I need to deal with this right now. But again, that's I think my like discomfort with being uncomfortable. Like I don't want that to linger too long because it's like it's unresolved. It feels awful.
Yeah. I had a moment recently in a place of levity. It was a party, lots of people around, and someone who I love very dearly told me something personal about their family, something tragic I did not know, and it was really interesting. It was kind of like the party, it was like ha 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 all around whatever, and the party just like went quiet to me, and I sat down with this person, and we and that like shift to seriousness, and it's something that I can also relate to, and it felt really good. And it usually don't talk about something like that and like a cha-da-da-da like chatty kind of party. So talking about humorous catharsis, also connecting on something serious and sad that you can relate to is incredibly cathartic. I was like, I'm not, like I sent Charlie, I was like, I want to stay. Like it was just.
I think that's sort of how far her point in the article of like how far we've gone.
Yeah.
That like now the default when someone tells you something tragic is to be like, well, that's crazy. And then like we're sort of like going
or
too
hope
far
it doesn't
on
happen
one.
to me. There's so much bad shit happening that it's
like
oh God,
Freud or
great.
whatever.
Another thing I have to worry about, but thank God it's not me. Like let's move on with our lives.
Yeah, but I think it's like we've gone too far. We don't have that counterbalance, so which is probably why it felt so nice.
It felt so nice, and it feels nice to take something from someone off someone for a little bit. And I know I can do a better job of like sharing with other people when I need help, when something taken off of me, but we don't. you and I have talked about this a lot. Friends and people who are close to you actually do want to do you favors. Actually do want to sit down and have a serious conversation with you. Actually just do want to help. But we feel like, oh, we're inconveniencing people. We're in this sort of like flighty. We even have our segment of like what's blowing up the group chat, which feels like intimacy. It feels like the place for seriousness. And most of it's not, because that's not like what we're looking for every day. But I don't know, that moment and then reading this article made me think, there's something therapeutic and human and lovely about being serious sometimes.
Well, that's when she's talking about like the irony epidemic, that's why I feel like it's interesting, because I think for especially millennial women, we're told to be authentic and genuine, but like on a platform, it's like, oh, I like influencers that feel really genuine or authentic. But I think sometimes those things are embarrassing or unwelcome. And so there is just like this weird world that we're straddling where it's like everything's online. So like if your friend that told you this story, like posted a Instagram live or a reel about this, like that's still very authentic and it's like genuine to what's happening with them. But then like, it's not really welcome in that way. So it is a sort of...
That's so interesting, because part of the reason I immediately, like everything in the room went quiet to me in my brain was because I didn't know this about this person and they hadn't shared it with many people before. And I had asked a question that prompted it, and it flashed through my mind that there was all these times before that this person,
was dealing with a saying that
that I had no idea.
Yeah.
That, and you know what? That is... It's like whenever anyone tells me they're pregnant, it's usually because they're telling me at like 13 or 14 weeks when they're starting to come out of like the horror of the first trimester. And I just feel so sorry. I did not know that I couldn't just like cuddle you and feed you dumplings and like pick up your kid or whatever. Yeah, so maybe it brought into stark relief. Hey, my day-to-day is just this. I'm covering up things with humor. I'm glossing over things or whatever, and people are dealing with shit.
Yeah.
As am I, but I'm covering that up too. So healthy.
So healthy.
So healthy. Oh, I do have to say, as I was reading this article, I could not get the Bare Naked Lady song out of my head. I'm that kind of guy who laughs at a funeral. Don't know what I mean when I feel well. No.
I have sympathy for where
I was like,
I have a
laughs at
history
a
of
funeral.
losing my shirt. I think of...
This is a guy who laughs at a funeral. It's like you don't know what to do.
The irony epidemic of thinking, isn't it ironic? Yeah. And how everyone says that she uses irony wrong or incorrectly in that song. Oh my God.
I'm reading this book on screenwriting. Stay tuned. No, I'm just kidding. And the guy's talking about how your screenplay tagline, it's not even called a log line or whatever it is, it needs to have a little bit of irony. It's like newlywed couple spends Christmas with 4 separate divorced parents, and that was like 4 Christmases or whatever. And it's like there's got to be this like, ooh, you wouldn't expect to spend it with 4 parents. You wouldn't expect,
We had Mario, my boyfriend. We submitted he used to like help this organization in LA that does sort of sketch shows, or they would probably say they're more highbrow than that, but they take open submissions for like concepts. And the submission recently was something only a child can get away with.
Ooh.
Which was fun. Ooh. We had a lot of fun just like brainstorming ideas. And the one that we submitted was like this dad goes to a restaurant with his baby, but it's like unclear how old the kid is in the script. So there's like a little bit of like, could it be like a teenager or something? And he's like, the kid's inconsolable. He wants to and the dad's like ordering food, but the kid won't stop crying. And finally the dad like is desperate and looks at the waitress and he's like, I'm so sorry. Like his mom, we don't know where she's been, but she normally breastfeeds him. And so he's like, he just really wants some milk. And then like the sort of flipping it on its head is like the waitress then like basically takes out her boob and is like, I'm on it. And then the like second flipping on its head is then like the manager comes out and he's like, Sheila, not again.
That's so good.
Thanks, but it didn't get selected.
The irony. Well, it should have as I was reading that and thinking about, okay, it has to have irony. Why is that? Mm-hmm. And it's because you need something surprising. Like you need like a carrot for the audience. That surprise could be funny. It could also be serious. Mm-hmm, like it could be like, one of them is like a cop gets out, like, I don't know, cop is off his own leave and goes to see his mom and her building is held up by hostages, by terrorists or whatever. So it's an interesting, like, we're always playing in this psyche space between, like, is this a serious thing I can laugh at? Is it a funny thing I can laugh at? Is this a serious thing? Is it surprising to me? And I guess a good story, a good screenplay, like, really messes
Straddles
with
them
us.
all?
Straddles
Straddles
the space.
them all.
I'm not gonna go left side of you know.
Can't understand what I mean. You soon will. I have a history of. I wish I could. I have a history of losing my shirt.
I think this should be the rest of the pod.
Yeah. Okay. Any other last thoughts or musings?
A couple of other thoughts. One, I was thinking about toxic positivity in relation to toxic humor for the first time reading this. Toxic positivity is something I know I have to work on. And it's something I know, actually building startups as a founder, you literally have to be toxically positive. It's okay, guys. Like, everything's burning to hell.
Yeah.
We got this. Like, you have to motivate people who signed up for your thing. You have to convince investors it's the right thing. You have to take care of your customers. And you just learn to, like, be this cheerleader. And then you become a mom and you're like, okay, let's get one foot in front of the other. We can go to gymnastics. It's okay that you pushed a girl into well, it's not okay. But, it's like, sometimes I feel like I'm constantly in this sort of, like, cheerleader place. And I just wonder how humor, and it's like humor's a tool in my toxic positivity sometimes. So I think checking that is a good thing.
Yeah, I agree.
Finding some depth and seriousness.
I agree. Yeah, sounds like we do not. Sounds like Lauren. We don't think it should be the end of seriousness, even if it is.
Ooh, what a sad prospect.
I know.
The end of seriousness.
Yeah, because what is there? There's like seriousness has substance.
I do reject. I see what she means with you don't want to be like a pearl clutching person who has no sense of humor.
Sure.
But I think that's a little black and white. Like, I don't think somebody who's being serious. Because the world is so rife with all of this, like, flatulent online humor, she says. I do think someone who's like, hey, can we talk about something seriously for me, is incredibly powerful.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
It's like, oh, fuck.
Yeah, if someone says that to me, I'm like, let me give you all my attention.
Yeah, and like wielding that seriousness, it could
strategically.
Be strategically.
Yeah, I think it could
That's
be powerful.
The word could be really powerful. All right, shall we?
Yeah.
All right. Group thread. So this is our segment called "Blowing Up the Group Chat." This is when we discuss something that is,
blown up
the group chat. What are we talking about?
What are we talking about?
Do you have something?
I sure do.
Okay.
Mine, I feel like I'm always hawking products on here, but I've got some good ones.
It's good for the links,
Got some
baby.
good products. And this go around, I will hat tip this to one of my friends who saw them first. And actually, it seems like everyone has seen them, but just hasn't all purchased them. So these are sweatpant jeans. And now these were a thing of the early aughts when I feel like everyone bought sweatpant jeans and they were, or like jegging. It was mostly jeggings that were like, looked like leggings, but they were, because it was the skinny jeans
Started
era.
as not good. Can I just say, you came over my house wearing these 3 days ago. I have not stopped thinking about them since. And before we even started recording, I told you I might drive to the place, future sponsor, and purchase these.
Yes.
So
influenced. I'm going to specifically say these ones are extraordinarily expensive and really, I'm sure there is a good dupe on TikTok or Amazon, but I haven't found them. And I did use like a promo code. So, I'll throw that out there.
Ooh, let's talk later.
Yeah, I'll tell you more. But they're the Rag & Bone Miramar sweatpant jeans because they have a button. So the button makes you feel like they're real pants, or makes other people think they're real pants, but they are not. They're sweatpants and they're good.
Allison showed me these and it was so cute. You were like, look at the divot, the rivet.
Yeah,
Is it a divot? It's not a divot. It's a rivet. You're like, look at this rivet.
It looks so real.
Yeah, it does.
It does.
I had to touch it.
Last night, my boyfriend tried to put his hands in my back pocket, but he couldn't because they were not real.
Snap. That needs to be an ad for them.
I know. He was like, oh. And then he told me that in Colombia that all the caddy girls, the gatas, wear fake jeggings.
I'm sorry, caddy girls?
Yeah, caddy girls, like the bitchy girls.
Oh, gatos.
The gatas. They all wear sweatpant jeans, but they weren't as cool as mine.
Amazing.
For sure.
Okay.
Okay, what's blowing up your group chat?
Links. Okay, so I went to an improv workshop for a day, and everybody needs to know about it. Because you've already heard about this.
Great.
And I thought I would bring my favorite little improv game to the pod. that you
Great.
also know because I also already made you play it with me.
Great.
So I really like the workshop is just great. The workshop is just great. You being able to you're making stuff up, but you're of course yes-anding. You're agreeing with people. You're sort of it's very. I don't know. It connects you in this way where you both feel like anything is possible. And it's nice for somebody to agree with you all the time.
Oh, totally. My
And
physical therapist
the sillier, the better.
also told me that she just went to an improv class, and
nice.
she's probably in her mid-50s. And she was like, Allison, it was amazing. She was like, I'm so bad at it, but it felt so good. And it was just, I felt so playful and fun.
The teacher was amazing. She also didn't know you're not supposed to be trying to be funny and interesting, which I'm always trying to be. It's like be less interesting. It's actually more funny if you just go with the truth of the thread or whatever. Anyways, this game is called Word.
Okay.
And the way you play the game, it's basically trying to help you connect with your partner to mind meld toward the same destination. So you each think of a word.
Hope this
and
goes well.
Once you have a word, you say word. It could be anything. It could be bird. It could be closet. It could be light. It could be whatever. After you say the word, then you get to say another word. And the goal of the game is to say the same one.
Okay. All right. Let's
should we try?
Give it a go.
Word.
Word.
Oh, we have to say 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
Stadium.
Door. Okay. Door and stadium. So, listener, we need to get close. What is between a door and a stadium?
Word.
1, 2, 3.
Archway.
Entrance. Whoa, an archway entrance. Okay, archway entrance. Okay, so now we need to get between archway and entrance.
Word.
Word. 1, 2, 3.
Banner.
Tunnel. Tunnel and banner. Okay.
Word.
Word. 1, 2, 3.
Balloons.
Super Bowl. Okay, balloons and Super Bowl.
Word.
Word, baby. Okay.
Word.
1, 2, 3.
Football.
Halftime. Halftime in football. Oh, this is such a boring one. No offense, football. Okay.
Word.
Halftime in football. Word. 1, 2, 3.
Three. Commercials.
Kendrick and commercials.
Word.
Oh, that Kendrick is in the article.
Oh yeah, they do.
Full circle.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3.
Pepsi.
Drake. All right, let's give it one more.
Okay.
Drake and Pepsi. Okay, word. 1, 2, 3.
No, I don't have mine yet. Drake and Pepsi. Okay, word.
1, 2, 3.
Coke.
Yes! We did it. So that's how it's done.
That's how it's done.
We both got there.
You can play it with
Anyway,
friends. You can
it's
play it
just
with
been
enemies.
nice.
You can play it with your kids.
Yeah, try it out. Word.
Coworkers. Give it a go.
Oh, I do have to share that I played this once with my husband. We did 2 rounds. The first round we were like da da da. We got to the same word, and then we said, okay, let's do a new one. 1, 2, 3, and we both go cupcake.
So
okay,
good.
meant to be.
So good.
That's
so
love.
good. That's why you're together.
All right, that's
Okay,
it.
We'll see you next time.
We'll see you next time for our next article, an article club.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.